Good evening, everyone. So this session from the supervisor or regulator, I would like to be very focused on the current threat landscape. So how many in this forum in the UCBs are in Tier 4? You can just raise your hands. Okay, Tier 3, Tier 2, okay, majority, and then Tier 1. Okay, so majority are in Tier 2, and so I'll just start right away with the advisories that was issued by CSERT last week, and then we put it on our DAX platform. How many are onboarded on DAX? How many are not aware about what is DAX? Okay, so there are some who are not aware. Everyone else is aware about DAX platform? Okay, so because this is very important as a supervisor, we are communicating to our entities through this platform. It's a supervisory platform used for regulatory communication to our entities. And if you are not onboarded onto DEX, I think there are procedures to onboard on DEX. You can take up with our concerned people for getting onboarded. This is how we circulate anything confidential or advisories or alerts or anything which is not in the public domain, and majority of our instructions are not in the public domain. You must be aware about the confidentiality practices, and then how we circulate it to them either through DEX platform or those who are not onboarded through our SSMs, and you get the emails. So specific to this current threat landscape, you are all aware, and to be in the level of preparedness, I just want to know how many received that CSERT alerts and then the advisories. Okay, so how many, so DAX is a platform, so if you are not on DAX, you would have got the emails also from our concerned SSM, so you would be talking with some SSM, right, in RBI, from Department of Supervision, you will have some teams which would be talking to you. So they would have sent some emails through the coordination cells. If not, please take up with them. And it is basically about the cyber hygiene, nothing very extraordinary, and most of them are in Tier 2 banks. So you are not the direct members of the core payment system or centralized payment systems, NEFT, RTGS. However, since you are coming through the sponsor banks, and then you would be offering either mobile banking or internet banking or UPI services through third party service providers, though the settlement may happen through a sponsor bank, it is equally important that you secure your ecosystems which are having a digital footprint, and then to safeguard not just in the current threat landscape, but in general as such, because we have been interacting with UCBs, we have been doing a lot of gap assessments of the UCBs, and I think most of the UCBs here, they would have been subjected to some certain empanel audit, and then the reports we would be discussing with you, there will be a lot of issues. So I will just briefly touch upon that, and then also focus on what is our expectations, and then in case maybe last 5-10 minutes if you have any queries, you can ask us. The first is about the objective of gap assessment is to see whether you are complying with our 2018 circular, 2019 circular, and also since majority are in the Tier 2, the sponsor bank relationship that you are putting in place, the host to host system security, whether you are compliant with that or not, that is most important. If you have any concerns in that, if you are not complying with that, then it raises the risk for not only the UCB but also on a systemic level, and that is why we are very, very specific about the controls that we have tailored on a level based approach. Broadly you can map level 4 to Tier 4, though it is not 1 to 100%, but broadly levels to tiers you can map. So that is our expectations. So specific to the gaps that we are addressing, or what we have seen either through our IT examinations or also through the certain empanel audits, again we will be discussing the basic cyber hygienes, where the broad recently which was alerted by the alerts are about the ransomwares, the supply chain attacks, the data leakage or compromise of the data, where you need to put in place necessary measures to secure the data security, and also the data leakage preventive things, and about the overall web, in case you are exposing to your websites, the web defacement or DDoS types of attacks. So to ensure that there are no embarrassments, and also that the customer service is not disrupted in case you are offering any websites. So these are the broad highlights of the recent things, which is not new to the UCBs. We have been reiterating it, but then this should be on your focus, top focus, to be on the state of high alert. So I'll just see what are the major weaknesses that we have seen in general, and then where we expect UCBs to to focus on. So the first thing is about most of these attack surfaces, the threat vectors come through some internet medium only, right? Whether we call it ransomware or whether we call it, which is not external. For example, DDoS is something external where you cannot, even if you want to 100% prevent, you cannot, because the source is an external, and you can only protect and then have good detective and then protective things. You cannot totally prevent it. Whereas the types like malwares or ransomwares or any other access control lapses, you can always prevent with appropriate preventive types of controls. But the first thing which you can strengthen in case there are some lapses is about your internet connectivity. Whether the internet connectivity is directly from your network, which is connected to the critical systems, or even in isolated PCs or terminals which you would have used in your branch network, either of them, just ensure that you have a very, very restricted internet connectivity, and you can think twice before offering an internet also, whether it is really required for my end system, or you can completely stop the internet connectivity. Because if there is no specific business use case, you can try to reduce your digital footprint. That is one way of trying to secure. Just try to avoid unnecessary digital footprints and exposures in the public domain, and that is one point where we have seen the reason is, once you are offering internet, that means you need to also secure that internet connectivity. You need to provide the proxy, whitelisting of the URLs and all security controls. And then if you are exposing your own things, you need to have web application firewalls and other controls, security controls. In case you are not providing it, you are just putting a full stop, then you are trying to sort of instead of mitigating, you are trying to avoiding it, because there are no risks specifically without an internet connectivity. So that is one very, very important thing. You can that is what we would like to insist upon. The second is about if you are providing, whether it is internet or whether you are trying to have a remote access to your third parties, anybody doing, what types of firewall rules are put in place, how are you securing the perimeter security is very, very important. What type of rules and configurations are kept in place, how it is being monitored, how you are relying on a third party for doing it, what type of oversight you are having, what type of review mechanism is there. Please check that point. It is very, very important, because unless you are able to collect the logs and review or put appropriate rules, you will not be able to detect and then monitor it. So that is also very important. And wherever the third parties are taking a remote access, in case there are any which increased during the lockdown times, and majorly it has been reduced, but wherever still some vendors are taking, try to put a multi-factor authentication, which we have clearly told, for the remote access, and then also secure it. Of course, all your CBS, I am sure that it should be having two-factor, which is a requirement in the 2019 itself, and subsequently also we have reiterated. So two-factor authentication for any critical transaction and also for accessing your critical systems, including the CBS, is very important. So several instances we have seen, again what I am telling is all basic lapses which you need to secure. Putting a weak password or things, in case the password policy is not reviewed or there are some weak passwords, try to secure it and then try to, it's not trying, in fact you need to secure it and then make it a strong password policies. And any privileged users that are being put in place, privileged users are users maybe with admin or the privileges which a normal end user for his day-to-day activities does not require. So try to restrict it and see whether it is really relevant or not, and wherever it is relevant you give only for the specific time and then stop that. Unpatched systems or other things which again any lack of patch management and things like that, it will be done. The most important point why RBI came out with a gap assessment, why we insisted that you need to do a certain panel audit, try to see the observations, and then we are taking specific actions. It's all because the third line, that is the IS audit vertical itself within the UCB may not be or is not that robust as we expect. While the first line is the people who develop or who are engaging with the third parties deploying, we need to also have effective oversight mechanism through an independent audit function that is about the third party. And then of course the emails, in fact in 2021 we also advised our sponsor bank that do not accept any emails coming from the cooperative banks from the non-bank specific mail ID like Yahoo's or Hotmails or Gmails, which we also got a confirmation that almost all the banks are using only bank specific mail ID. But what we understand is it has not stopped the UCBs or the cooperative banks from using generic mail IDs for business purposes. That should be stopped completely. Any official communication, anything that you are using for a business purpose, you should not be using any generic mail ID. Generic in the sense any mail ID which is not bank specific. You should use only your bank specific domain, and it should be DMARC compliant. If DMARC not understanding, your technical team will understand. It's not a very complex solution, but it at least ensures that your domain is secure and it is protected from spoofing domains, because we have seen many instances of domain getting compromised. I was discussing about the typosquatting or the domain lookalike domains, things like that. At least this type of things in a DMARC compliant mail IDs will solve. That is very, very essential. And also about change management is another important thing. Of course, when you are dependent on a third party for doing any specific changes in the application, because we are not developers, bankers, we don't develop a specific application or software, we are dependent on a third party. However, whenever that particular change is being brought into our production environment, what type of use cases are put in place before it is moved into production, so that it is tested rigorously and for all possible scenarios and use cases, so that the desired functionality is being met. It is not lacking any functional things. Not about the security alone, it's about the functionality aspect also. So that type of rigorous testing is very, very essential before you are engaging with any change or upgradation. And of course, after the DPDP Act, the focus is also about securing the data part, your customers' data, the PA data, sensitive data. So how are you securing it? How are you ensuring that necessary backups are taken and it is also taken in a secure manner? This is very important. This is our broad expectations, but when we say, okay, from the board angle, okay, what type of oversight mechanism we can expect as a board, okay, what I should do as a CEO or as a top management, what I should look into, what I can ask my team. Specific things, again you can just ask about restricting the internet access. I am reiterating this again and again because several instances where we have seen the incidents reported by UCBs, it's all because of some intruder getting into through some unauthorized internet access, or the internet access not being monitored in the bank. Once you stop the internet, there are either he has to come through an internet, either he has to come through an external drive like a pen drive, some no floppy disk are not there, pen drives or the external media. Either he has to come through an email, or he has to come through either physically, fourth, or the fifth one is about a supply chain. Now supply chain, we will have a limited visibility through a vendor, some patch vendor is applying, like the CrowdStrike thing what we saw last year, we may have a very, very limited visibility about what type of patches are being applied through any updations. But then there are testing mechanisms, but yes, it's not 100%. You can protect the preventive part about the physical entry, physical person accessing the systems. You can also protect, which banks have done, about securing or hardening the end PCs or servers without having access to external media like USB pen drives, things like that you have disabled. Email security, very, very important. So you need to secure with DMARC and also put necessary firewalls so that there are no malicious links coming through email. which we have seen in several instances. Somebody clicks that malicious link, and then there is a internet connectivity getting established from the cooperative bank to some adversary. We call it command and control, whatever we call, somebody sitting or a hacker. Basically that is happening because there is an internet connectivity happening. There is an internet connection from the PC to external internet domain. So that is the main thing. Clicking is one part definitely, but then how he is able to communicate, because through internet. So the first step, if you are able to stop the internet or restrict it to only a limited whitelisted IP address or the URLs, very limited, then the 75% of the problem is solved if you are just stopping it. That is the most important control, and then most easily implementable controls. The simple, high impact, low cost, high impact is about restricting the internet. Please go back to your banks. I am told there are around 200 to 250 UCBs. I am not able to see those many people, but nevertheless you can pass on to the friends how many ever have come or how many are not at present, to pass on this message. The simple and effective control is very important. And then how malware or ransomware acts, because unless it has some privileges, it will not be able to execute, or it will not be able to move within the network, or it will not be able to do some harm, in simple language. Because it is having some privilege, it is able to execute something which is unauthorized. So disable all admin or extra privileges in all the systems. You don't need that for your normal programming or normal functioning, you don't require it. So disable it, that will solve others few percentage of the problems. Of course, applying the patch, this is a regular cyber hygiene that you need to do. Two-factor authentication. So this is again a point which I like to see, especially for the tier 2 banks. When you are interacting with your sponsor banks, you are having a host-to-host client machine at your end, you are generating a CBS file, and then it is moving to your host-to-host. From there it moves to the host-to-host server offered by a sponsor bank. And then I understand you also log into the sponsor bank's net banking system and then try to authorize that file. And then so that there is a two-factor authentication, and there is a maker checker also. However, what we understand is that this particular authentication, what we are doing in the sponsor bank's side, is not about individual transactions which you had actually passed in the core banking. You try to do it at the file level. So if some adversary tries to change you generate 10 transactions in CBS, it moves to a client, host-to-host client in your environment. However, that host-to-host client is not secure, and then there is some adversary sitting there. Adversary means some hacker is remotely connecting and sitting there. He is modifying the file. However, the total amount, total number of transactions, everything is same. And then it moves to the host-to-host, because that host-to-host side server at the sponsor bank end, they will simply take that. And people also log in and then authorize. We have seen instances where, while at the time of authorization, some banks have identified also some changes which they have not actually authorized in core banking, and some frauds have been prevented. And we have also seen certain cases where, due to oversight, due to absence of checking the individual transactions, some fraudulent transactions also have gone through. That means operational controls also, the process that is put in place to authorize each and every transaction in the host-to-host server or in the net banking of the sponsor bank, it has to be at the transaction level. You have to check the name, account number and amount. It's not just enough that you check the amount. You have to check the name, account number and amount and the total, and then see this is what your team has processed and approved in core banking. That is very important. Second, however, you need to, the most essential control is securing the host-to-host client, which I said about. When you restrict the internet, if you restrict the admin privileges, it will be taken care with other necessary cyber hygiene. So this, you please ensure that this is how you can, because the tier 3 banks are direct members, or tier 4 are direct members of CBA, of the CPS, the centralized payment system. So you directly send the file. Whereas tier 2, you come through the sponsor bank, you need to be very careful about authorizing each and everything. And also we have told to do a reconciliation and also acknowledge it to the sponsor bank. I hope all of you are doing. It's very essential. These are very basic the housekeeping, but then it pays a lot. It secures your systems in a very strong manner, and these are not difficult to implement. This is all over and above securing your CBS, your controls in the CBS, not to have any remote access, strengthening the controls that is required for the CBS and all. Next is about your backing up the data. Of course, banks are doing, UCBs are also backing up. You are also taking offline backups, very important. Why we say offline backup is very important? Because we have seen instances where not just in UCB, there are other entities also, other regulated entities. If the primary site in the data center and the secondary DR site, disaster recovery data center, are all connected, and if the data seamlessly flow from the primary to the DR, if due to some reason the primary site is infected with a ransomware, invariably the encrypted data flows to the DR, and then the DR also gets encrypted. So without an offline backup, without a media where you take in the tapes, if in the absence of that, both primary site and DR site is encrypted. So then it will lead to a disruption of customer service, and the entity would be required to restore from an offline media. That is why we keep saying that you take the backups in the media. So there are solutions for immutable backup, airtight, all those things, but a simple the simple cost-effective thing is take an offline media, take the backups, keep it separately. You are not connecting it to your primary or DR site. So in case of any contingency, any risk like this, you can restore it. And if you do it on a daily basis, you can restore it with minimal data loss, and test that data also, so that tapes and drives work whenever you want to restore. So taking an offline data backup of critical systems, it is not only about the application. It's not only about the data, it's also about the application, because you may be taking the data backup, but then you would have made multiple changes to the application, the patches to the application, the versions, upgrade, all those things. And in case you don't have an updated version of that application, the current version that is running as a backup, then where you will restore the data? Data will be there, but you will not have an application to run that. That means you need to also have an offline backup of the updated version of all the critical applications. So have that. You're not going to change it every day, but whenever you do, just take that backup and keep it, and on a daily basis take the backups. So backup medias, the offline data is very essential. And of course, reconciliation is very important. These are again the process related. It's nothing to do with cyber security and all, but then reconciliation we have seen, at least in my experience last 8 years, reconciliation is one particular control where it has, in the absence of that, the financial impact for an entity has just exponentially grown, and with a good reconciliation, the financial impact has mitigated to a very large extent. A good reconciliation, a near real-time reconciliation is very essential, and again it's a process related things, so which every entity is capable of doing it. And of course about the network security, whether you put a firewall, what type of firewalls you put, how do you secure the ecosystem, how do you put at the right place, and how much do you expose it to the public network, and then what type of access you give to whom all, you need to have a complete visibility of that. So when we say, even in our cyber security framework, we would have discussed about the inventorizing your asset. That is the first control. That means as a bank, I should know what all assets I have. If I don't know what all I manage, then it's not possible to mitigate the risk. First we should know that inventory. So that is the first thing. On 31st December 2019, when we came out with a comprehensive framework, on the same day we came out with another cybersecurity framework, which was also issued to all UCBs and commercial banks as well. That is about extending the cybersecurity framework to your third-party ATM switch service providers. In fact, we would have added one line in that circular about it is not just ATM switch, it is equally applicable to any other switch service providers, whether you call it IMPS switch or UPI switch. Any other switch service also is equally relevant, because today banks may not be managing many of the switch applications at their data centers, and then the switch application is also provided by a TP, third party application providers. Now, how do you ensure that they are also secure? Because it's not just adequate that if a bank alone or a bank's ecosystem alone is getting secured, you have to extend it to your third party also. So, how do you communicate? That is how we came out with our master direction on outsourcing, though it is applicable to tier 3 and tier 4. The 2019 one, we have discussed something about outsourcing. It is equally applicable to all layers of UCBs, and therefore the right to audit clause or having appropriate contract arrangements with your third party, doing a due diligence on them. In fact, we have started doing pooled audits. I don't know how many UCBs here, whether they participated any pooled audit exercise. So last year we did, I think 3 service providers we took. And then we collected, some is there. So we collected, we sorted 4 or 5 UCBs together. We defined the scope. They engaged with the third party service providers, and they did an audit through a certain panel auditor, and we ensured that yes, all our requirements, whatever we defined in the scope, are met. We discussed along with the banks and the third party service provider to ensure that the audit is complete, it's satisfactory to our extent, and that is how you try to secure. So when 4 or 5 UCBs come together, you have a better say. You can have a strength to even try to communicate what you expect. Along with that, we also join and then say the entities have to comply, the third party has to comply. So these guidelines what we have issued to the banks for the third party, but through the banks will help, and then you can clearly communicate to them this is our expectations. And as we speak, we have initiated another 5 or 6 service providers. We have engaged with several UCBs, 4 to 5 UCBs for each third party, and then doing a next phase of pooled audit. Similarly, we have done one for commercial banks. So this is how we need to strengthen, because the third party dependence is only going to increase, and then that means we need to have even more effective oversight, periodic audits, and then compliance assessment, and then satisfactory confirmations, and then some certificates which the entities, third parties should give to you. And please also share whatever advisories we give, and those who are on Daksh, I am sure that to my understanding, almost all tier 2, 3, 4 should be on Daksh. If in case you are not on Daksh, please take up with your respective SSM team, and then please get access to the Daksh. All our secure advisories are all uploaded there. Why I am saying is these advisories are relevant for you, and you should also discuss the points in that to your third party and ensure he is also complying. It's not enough that only you are securing your ecosystem if half your systems are managed by the third party at his end. How do you ensure that he is also complying with it? Okay, whether it is on the cloud or whether it is a specific on-prem data center managed by the third party, the advisories are to secure your ecosystem. Your ecosystem may extend beyond your physical remit and go to even the third party. So ensure compliance with our advisories. Why I am reiterating this is, see, the circular is very, very principle based. Okay, it is not very prescriptive, very principle based, and then it discusses on a very macro level, which you have to comply. Whereas the advisories that we issue and the alerts that we issue are actually an outcome of an incident that has materialized at a supervised entity. So what we are trying to do is converting an incident into an intelligence for the rest of the community, so for the benefit of the community, so that the similar risk is not seen in other entity, and the similar risk if seen is not exploited in other entities. So you can secure. That's why the controls that we are mentioning in our advisories are certain, it is prescriptive to address a specific risk. So it is little more severe than what is the principle based part. However, it is trying to address the specific risk, the specific threat actors. There are threat actors which are targeting UCBs, there are threat actors targeting other entities, and we can categorize. So it's like a medicine which is prescribed, it will treat the specific issue. These advisories are trying to handle the issue. So we discuss the modus operandi, what has happened, why it has happened, what were the weaknesses. If there are some IOCs, we call it indicators of compromise, like maybe a suspicious IP or URLs or hashes, things like that. And also give the recommendation, okay, this whole thing happened, this is how you need to secure, these are the IOCs, and do these things, so that you can prevent or secure your ecosystem. That is how advisory is there. So please go through from that perspective, and alerts are something which we get as a threat intel. There is no background to it. We just share the threat intel so that you can readily secure, immediately patch your systems. In case you are not managing, many of the banks you may not be managing, you may have a managed security service provider or a third party managing your security solutions. You need to share with them to secure this ecosystem. Okay, so that is very, very important. Otherwise, if you are not acting on the advisories and alerts, then a compliance with only the cyber security framework. Of course, if you are complying in a true spirit, you will be able to comply this also. However, these are very prescriptive things to say the nitty-gritties of what type of compliance is expected. This is what we would like to communicate through our advisories, and please go through that and secure. That is what I would like to say. The last, I would like to just since I just thought I got a very simple questionnaire which we shared with our entities, I thought I will also reiterate here, so that you can, in case you have not got it, got the CCERT advisories. In fact, we have communicated through our earlier advisories and circulars also. 5 minutes. Okay. To subscribe to the alerts and advisories issued by CERT. Okay, there is in CERT is known as cyber security response team, incident response team, and then there is something called a CCERT under that CERT, that is specifically for financial sector. There is a CERT established within the CERT, that is CCERT Fins for financial sector. They come out with specific threat intel for the financial sector, including for the UCBs. And we have also issued in our earlier advisories to subscribe to the alerts and advisories issued by CCERT, which you will not find in the public domain, you will not find in the CERT websites. So, but then we don't share each and everything what they communicate, otherwise we will become just like a postman only. We don't want to do that, and we have only told the entities to subscribe and get the alerts directly from them. So they have issued a few things, and then I just want to reiterate it. If you have not subscribed, please do immediately. It is incident@cert-in.org.in, but you can go through what we have issued. And the specific thing is to be on the state of very high alert. In the current circumstances, you all understand what I am discussing. You have to be in the state of very high alert, and then 24/7 in case you are keeping the systems up in the off office hours also. And then have all the contacts of the third parties or relevant stakeholders updated with you, so that in case of any contingency, anything, you can immediately contact them. So updated contact list is very, very essential. Please do that. And your crisis management plan, which we discussed in 2018 itself, I hope it is there, and then you can be in the state of readiness. In case you are having SOC, maybe some tier 2 has taken managed security services, or in case tier 3 and this one, the SOC should be again on the state of high alert to monitor whatever the alerts and whatever. As we discussed the DDoS, we are seeing some instances. Okay, we also shared an alert today with some IP addresses. So try to secure it. And also the physical security measure. We all discussed about cyber security, very much relevant today. Even physical security also, you need to secure your infrastructure, IT infrastructure and things like that. And then also the threat intels, whatever you are getting from the third party, if you are having a managed security, you please on a serious note, try to take that and then apply in your systems. Access controls are very important. Data backups, again we discussed. And then also sensitize your third party. It's not that I'm talking only to UCBs, because we are regulate the UCBs. You need to pass on this equally to your third party who manage your systems. And they need to also be sensitized to be aware about the current threat landscape, and then things like that. And also phishing emails, any email, do not click. Sensitize your employees not to click on any link, anything looking malicious. Of course, the email system also should be made secure, robust to block these things. And then the security patches and things like that which you are doing, you can be secured. Specifically for those who are managing any SWIFT or the core banking will be applicable to all, but critical payment systems including SWIFT or RTGS, NEFT for tier 3, tier 4, on then any payment channels, if you are offering on the payment like internet or mobile, or you are having interface with a third party for offering UPI, IMPS, pay more attention to that and secure, and then continuously monitor. Just be on the state of high alert, and that's all from my side. Jai Hind.